What's up everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be talking about how to break bad habits and build better ones. Now this video was inspired by a book titled Atomic Habits written by James Clear. If you've never read that book or never heard of that book, I would highly recommend that book. Should be on every 2025 must-read list because it really transformed how I looked at how you can build better habits. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, have you ever caught yourself doom scrolling on your phone? I, for one, am very guilty of this, just being on TikTok for no particular reason at all. I'm thinking, oh, I'm just going to be here for 15 minutes because I've set a limit on my phone that, for during weekdays, I can only be on social media for 15 minutes a day. However, when the pop-up comes up on my phone that my 15 minutes is up, I'm like, oh, just give me 15 minutes more, just give me 15 minutes more, just give me 15 minutes more. And before I know it, I've spent an inordinate amount of time on social media. I've wasted an hour that I could have been productive just scrolling for no apparent reason. Procrastinating is something as well that I struggle with. But today, we're going to talk about how we can break these bad habits and actually replace them with good habits. Like the ones that make you feel like you've got your life together, that you're being kicking your goals for 2025. So let's do it. So the first step, I think, is to identify the habit and the trigger. So for instance, you may notice that you are always hungry at a certain time of the day, because usually bad habits don't show up uninvited. They usually have a schedule. So it's when there are certain conditions around you that will trigger that bad habits. Do you binge watch Netflix every night, or do you scroll through TikTok instead of sleeping, or do you like to snack? This is the last time you'll ever see those snacks. Look at the trigger. Is that you're snacking because you're bored? One thing that I actually found out, which was really weird about myself, is that actually most of the time I eat for entertainment. So I don't eat because I'm actually hungry, because I think to myself, actually, I don't feel hungry, but I just try and find something to eat just because. When I'm working from home, especially, I find myself going to the pantry quite often. I'm pretty sure I ate an hour ago. I'm not hungry at all. So why am I here? And so look for the trigger. Is the trigger boredom? Are you just doing or performing this habit just because you're bored and you don't have anything else around you to entertain you like I do with the food? Or is it like a time of the day that is triggering you, that is triggering that habit? Or perhaps it might be a certain location. As I mentioned just earlier, for me, it is when I'm working at home that I'm most tempted to eat out of to eat for entertainment. When I'm actually outside of the home, I find that I don't have as much desire for food. Try and keep a journal for a few days, marking all those times where this habit shows up, so that you can be able to identify a pattern of what's going on. Most of the time, or some of the time, it might be because suddenly you're a little bit bored, you don't have anything to do, or you're thinking, oh, I'm watching a nice movie now, so I need something to accompany that. So tip number one, try and identify the habit and the trigger. Keep a journal for a couple of days to track how this habit is showing up and the conditions around why the habit is showing up. Step number 2, understand the payoff of kicking the old habit. So, habits usually stick because they do something for us. So, even if it's a bad habit, right? It gives us something. It's either giving us a distraction, comfort. Like with the social media, perhaps it's giving us dopamine. So try and ask yourself, when you identify this bad habit, what are you getting out of it? What is the benefit that you're getting out of the habit? Then find a better way to get the same reward. So if it's, I'm eating because I'm bored, can I find something else? Perhaps replace it with water, instead of going and getting food, perhaps get some water instead, or instead of getting chips, get snack on a carrot instead. It's still got the same crunch, right? That I like. It's still got I'm still entertained by something in my mouth that I'm eating. So I'm still getting the same satisfaction, but not with something that is bad for me. So instead of stress eating on cookies, perhaps, as I mentioned, try stress eating on carrots, or try going for a walk or try going for a walk, and get your mind off of wanting to binge eat or stress eat the cookies. So replacing it with something else, understanding the payoff of the habit and seeing how you can replace it with something that gives you similar feelings of satisfaction, but something that is actually good for you. So the third step, after we've identified the habit and the trigger, and after we've understood the payoff of the habit that we're engaging in, now step 3 is to swap it, not just stop it. Now, in times past, I've most of the time tried to kick a bad habit by sheer willpower, but most of the times it really doesn't work. It doesn't work because after a couple of days I'm like totally worn out from trying to resist it, and then I just end up going back into the same loop of things. So instead of trying to remove the habit and leaving a vacuum, try and replace that habit with something else. So if you're always checking your phone when you wake up, as an example, try and put it across the room and replace that urge with journaling. So instead of waking up and the first thing being grabbing your phone that's right beside your bed and looking at it and then scrolling for 30 minutes, take your phone, put it across the room, and then beside your bed, put a journal and a pen, so that the first thing that you reach out for in the morning is a journal and a pen. Write down your dreams, your thoughts, your desires, what you want to do for the day, and stuff like that. So you're still feeling that void with something else that is actually productive. Or instead of journaling, maybe put a glass of water beside you, and reach out for the glass of water instead of reaching out for your phone. Or perhaps just use the time to meditate and think about your day and think about the things that you're going to do for the day. So swap it and don't just stop it. Step number 4, make the new habit ridiculously easy. Most of the time we stop new habits because it's just too hard. It is just too hard. you know how many times I've written New Year's resolutions, and I've thought to myself, my goodness, this year is going to be the year that I'm going to do it. I'm going to wake up each and every morning and I'm going to run 5 kilometers before I start my day, and I'm going to be that girl. You know what I mean? But, after the first week of trying to keep up with that, it's like, you know what, this is just too hard. And then, I fall off the wagon. I feel like this is one of the reasons why we never really stick to our New Year's resolutions, because we set these ambitious goals that are so far-fetched from how we've been living our everyday life. So we want to do a 360-degree transformation, and go from 0 to 100 in one day, which is very, very difficult. Sometimes it takes time, and it takes small steps of changing our habits bit by bit, replacing them with good ones, and then eventually we'll get to the 100. But the 100, we just don't wake up at 100, right? So step number 4 is make the new habit ridiculously easy. Do you want to start working out, as an example, or do you want to get into a routine where you're embracing a more fit or a more healthy lifestyle? Don't just start by signing up for a 90-minute boot camp every weekend, right? Start small, right? Start small. Maybe just say, okay, for this week, I'm going to wake up in the morning and then I'm going to do 10 push-ups before I jump into the shower, or 5 push-ups before I hop into the shower. And then next week, increase that to a point where you're now doing a 30-minute workout every morning before you start your day. The goal here is to build momentum and not to be perfect the first time. So step number 4 is that we need to make the new habit ridiculously easy, so that we are more likely to stick to it and follow through with it. Step number 5 is use habit stacking. Now, when I read about habit stacking in James Clear's book that I mentioned earlier, I thought that this was definitely a life changer. So according to James Clear, try and tie your new habit to something that you already do. So for instance, if you are a person who wants to start journaling more, and you know that, I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I do is I go out into the kitchen area and I make myself a cup of coffee, and I look outside and look at the flowers, for instance, right? What you can do then is say, as I am looking outside and looking at the flowers during my morning cup of coffee, I will take that time to now write down the thoughts that I'm thinking at that time, right? So then you have stacked that habit. Instead of finding a totally isolated time that is not even related to journaling, that you're trying to fit into your day to make yourself journal more, you're now looking at a time in your day where you're already doing something similar and then just adding it on so that it feels more seamless. So use habit stacking as a way to incorporate new habits into your routine. Tip number 6 is track your wins, even the tiny ones, right? Most of the time, it's easy to discount the little wins, right? And always look out for the big wins in our routine or in our lives, or in the things that we want to do. But sometimes it's equally important to track the little wins, even just as a way to motivate you to keep going, or as a way of reflecting on the effort that you've been putting in and how it has been paying off. So you could use a habit tracker, a calendar, or even a piece of paper to see to track your goals and your wins. And then seeing those streaks build up over time, it gives you not only confidence that, you know what, I'm actually doing it, but it really helps you identify perhaps some of the days where you've been falling off the wagon and see whether there is a pattern there that you can change. Number 7, set yourself up for success. Your environment matters more than your willpower. So if you're, for instance, trying to stop snacking like me, guilty, right? Try and ensure that, when you're going for your weekly shop or your fortnightly shop or your monthly shop, you're not buying a ton of snacks that you could potentially eat, right? So that you're not in a position whereby you've got your pantry that is full of all this chocolate, this chips, all of these kind of things that you're trying to resist by your willpower. Maybe remove that from your vicinity and instead perhaps replace it with more fruits, with more veggies like celery or carrots that you can snack on instead, still giving you that crunch that you like or that sweetness that you like, but a more healthier alternative. So if you're trying to read more, perhaps you need to put by your bedside a book that you would like to read, or even instead, like I fell into the sort of trap of trying to focus on one kind of book to read. Like I was like, oh, I want to focus on self-development, right? So I'm gonna only be reading self-development books, but they can be quite heavy and quite dense. So maybe mix it up and say, you know what, I'm in a reading slump at this stage, so let me read something that I actually enjoy, even if I'm not gonna learn much from it, right? Let me read something that I actually enjoy until I'm out of that slump and in a place where I can read a more heavier material, right? Step number 8, be kind to yourself. We're only human, we'll mess up, and that's normal and that's okay. The only thing that is not okay is staying there. I remember there was a teacher when I was back in high school. I went for extra lessons when I was in A-level, and so this teacher was teaching us chemistry, and he was saying that, you know what, it's okay for you to make a mistake, it's okay for you to really mess up. But the only thing that is not good is for you to mess up and then just sit on it. Mess up and then just sit on it. So once you've identified that, you know what, I keep falling back into this trap, don't just sit on it, right? Try and find ways in which you can restart your journey, or ways in which you can support yourself more. If it's prepping your environment, maybe do that. For instance, if you want to start running a little bit and you're thinking, okay, I'm just going to run for 10 minutes every morning, try and make sure that your clothes are laid out, right, in the morning, and your shoes are right there, so that when you wake up in the morning, you're not trying to find where your running shoes are, where you left your watch, and right, try and make it easier for you to stick to the habit. The important thing is, once you've messed up a couple of times and all that kind of jazz, don't give up, don't quit, just restart again, right? So those are the 8 tips that I had for us today on how we can kick out the bad habits and start incorporating new good habits into our lives and into our routines. So, what's one habit that you're trying to break, and what are you replacing with? Something to think about. And hit the like button if this video helped you. Don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. And please let me know in the comment section below, have you read Atomic Habits? What were your thoughts on the book? And whether you'd like to see more content like this on my channel. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with me. I really appreciate your company. Until next time, see ya.